Escobar, 0P2, ladder 1, ladder 5, county wagon 1, engine 2, engine 3. You're going to be responding for a structure fire. Call is last from on fire.
Welcome back to the Ringdown podcast. I'm Hope Escobar.
And I'm Casey Fury. Today we're diving into the world of fire investigations, prevention, and how enforcement and the fire department work together to keep Roanoke safe.
Medic 3 zone 2.
Second line, knock down the exterior fire.
We're joined today by two very special guests, Fire Marshal Smith and Deputy Fire Marshal Gardner. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Before we get started on today's topics, can each of you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how long you've been with the department, and what brought you into the fire department and specifically the fire marshal's office?
I've worked for Roanoke City for 30 years with the fire department. Been in the fire marshal's office as a fire investigator since 2013. I've been actually assigned to the fire marshal's office since 2021. I'm from Roanoke. I actually grew up in Blacksburg and moved to Roanoke when I got hired in the city.
Fair enough. Been here ever since.
Yep.
All right.
I came in the fire department in 2003. I got my fire investigator in 2007, got my inspector in 2010, and I came up into the fire marshal's office in 2018 through the ranks there, and still there. I've been here for a total of 22 years. And I pretty much grew up down in Dublin, down in New River Valley.
What brought both of you to the fire service? Was it just something you thought was cool and joined it? Did you have an influence in your family or friends? Or
It turned out it was a family. I didn't know my father had been a volunteer firefighter prior. My father was in industrial safety with a local industrial facility. So I got to see inspections and investigations of incidents and all that from a different angle, and that's what brought me where I am today.
Okay.
I actually have the only other person in my family who was in the fire department is I have my mom's brother. So my uncle is a retired volunteer battalion chief up in Maryland, and then as a funny side note, I was trying out for the women's professional football team way back when, and a now retired captain, Phil Dillon, told me I should apply to the fire department, and here I am.
It all worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're so happy you guys are here. Fire investigations is really something that is important, and then the prevention side that you guys do as well. We'll start off kind of with the foundation. Fire investigations aren't something that anyone can just walk into. Can you guys talk a little bit about the training and certifications that are required for your roles?
Well, to start with, when you get hired onto the city, you actually get a couple of the courses that you actually have to have before you can even try to become a fire investigator. Through recruit school, you'll get firefighter 1, firefighter 2, and hazmat awareness. Mm-hmm. And once you're in the department, you express interest, and there's classes for the NFPA 1033, which is a fire investigator class, and then you can go from there. It branches off.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and how many people are in the fire marshal's office?
There are 10 of us total with an administrative assistant. Well, 11 counting Ronnie Campbell, who does our plan review, and then we're supposed to have 15 field investigators.
What's a field investigator for people that don't know?
Field investigators are firefighters that ride fire trucks every day that are actually our frontline initial fire investigators. So they investigate any fire event that's taken place, and then if it evolves into something bigger, they'll call the fire marshal's office for assistance.
How much of your training overlaps with law enforcement? Obviously, you both are law enforcement certified. Can you kind of speak to that aspect and the route you can travel there?
The two have a lot of similarities as far as the investigation portion of it. So, obviously, we're not on the street pulling people over and writing tickets for speeding and running stop signs and all that. But as far as the investigation of a crime, the development of clues and suspects, questioning and interviewing persons of interest or people from the scene, witnesses or whatever, to try and determine who's responsible for a crime. That's the two are identical as far as that. The differences primarily come in that we obviously focus on fire crimes versus just crimes in general. The police department doesn't have the ability to say a fire started in a specific location, whereas we do. And then the investigation part of the criminal act is basically the same.
Right, so that's where your investigator and enforcement can meet between those two different trainings, two different routes. It's kind of the best of both worlds for some people. You get to be a firefighter but also be a law enforcement officer.
Yes.
And can you walk us through a typical fire investigation, like from the moment you get the call, you arrive on scene? What are you looking for? What are those first steps?
So the first part is establishing that the scene is safe. We typically don't start the fire investigation until the fire is out. Once the fire has been extinguished and the battalion chief on scene, the incident commander, has said, hey, we're good, then we'll start looking at the scene. We start on the outside, looking at the building, focusing, actually, this is going to sound funny, we actually focus on what didn't burn. By what didn't burn tells us where the fire actually started, because if it didn't burn, that's obviously not where the fire came from. And then we'll work backwards from the area of least damage to the area of greater damage, walking around the outside of the building, looking at it, and then taking that same philosophy and moving inside the building in a systematic pattern, so that we make sure we look at the entire structure and don't miss anything.
And that starts typically with the field investigators, right? The
Yes.
people that are out there, they go get investigation one, which is our investigator, old retired rescue truck from another department. It's been refurbished into what it is today.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a beautiful truck. And they start that process before y'all get there, and y'all don't go to every
right.
fire.
The field investigators, and even the field investigators, don't go to every fire. They will only go to a fire that there's a set of criteria that's not worth going into here, but there's a set of criteria that involves that triggers the field investigators to come out. They'll go out and do their initial investigation, and if they deem the fire to be accidental, that's where it stops. If it turns into being something bigger, potential in arson or something like that, then they'll contact us, and we may come out at that point, we may not. It depends upon the specific incident.
When it comes down to it, the actual fire officers that are on scene actually are they're the front line investigators, because they see what they have, and then that's when they determine whether they call out for the investigators to come to the scene.
Mm-hmm. And those are the foundations that they built from the classes at the baseline that you were talking about?
Yes.
Cool. And then what's the difference between accidental, undetermined, intentionally set fires? How do you figure that out? What are some things that you look for specifically on a fire scene to determine that?
We'll start with undetermined, because that's a easier answer. Undetermined means we were unable to pinpoint the exact cause of the fire. It could be that it was an accidental fire, but we don't know what specifically caused the accident. Or it could be that we couldn't prove arson versus an accidental fire. An accidental fire is a fire that was caused by either a mechanical failure, or somebody just made a mistake, or it was not set intentionally. It was an accident.
Right, no malice behind it.
Right. Nobody was trying to do anything bad. It was not I wasn't trying to burn somebody's house down. Like a cooking fire, or inappropriately discarded smoking materials, failures in mechanical devices, things like that. As opposed to an intentionally set fire is typically a crime. That's, I've decided I'm going to burn my house down for insurance, or I'm mad at my neighbor or my ex-girlfriend or whatever, and I go set something on fire.
It's where the malice, it's done in malice then.
Right. So if you determine that it is an intentionally set fire, it had, intent behind it to cause damage, with our fire marshal's office having law enforcement abilities, do you have to involve the Roanoke Police Department, or can you all go get warrants, charges, and do everything on your own?
We can actually do all that on our own, but police are normally initially on scene, and they do initiate a police report because we have access to their police reporting system, and so we do go get our own warrants. We execute our own warrants, but we do work hand in hand with PD. There may be times that we have to get PD's assistance. I'm sure, if there's a suspect on scene and we know for sure, they say, "Hey, I did it," we can arrest them, but we can't transport them.
Right.
So we do have to use the police department in that aspect also.
And a lot of times in that particular scenario, police will have had them arrested before we even get there. If they know that the crime was perpetrated by a specific individual and they can prove it, they'll arrest them before we even know what's going on. But we work very closely with the police department. We do have the ability to prosecute an entire criminal investigation autonomously on our own outside of the police department, but we typically work hand in hand with them.
Right.
And we can, even like say later on in our investigation, if we don't know who it is initially and we figure out who it is, we have the ability, if we have enough information, we can go to the Commonwealth to do direct indictments. Or if we do get an arrest warrant and we are going to go arrest somebody, we will take PD with us because once again, they will have to transport the subject to magistrate.
Mm-hmm. Does this process look different if the suspect's a juvenile?
Yes. Vastly different. Juveniles cannot be... The state protects juveniles, as it should, to prevent them from being prosecuted or what's the word I'm looking for? They try not to influence children into becoming, quote, bad citizens. Mm-hmm. So they're given opportunities that adults don't. So say an adult commits a crime, we have probable cause, we can get warrants, we can get arrests. It goes straight through the process. It's not that complicated. For children, we can actually know that the child did it, have video or witnesses or whatever, but we are not allowed to arrest that child without contacting Child Protective Services and getting a child advocate involved. We have to contact the juvenile intake officer and present the case completely to them. They'll make a judgment on it, whether it's worthy or not, or valid to go forward, and then the child would be arrested and then taken into a juvenile facility as opposed to going to jail.
Is there still like the juvenile fire setter program, or is that kind of what that?
Well, so is? Over the past years, we've had juvenile fire setter program. Now we are rebuilding the juvenile fire setting program. We are working hand in hand with Blue Ridge Behavioral Health.
Beautiful.
A couple of our assistant fire marshals have went through the program, and Assistant Fire Marshal Hull has kind of taken it by the horns, and he's leading it. We're building from the ground up, as in forms, our memorandums of understanding between the localities, and it's going to be a good program because we want everybody to be model citizens, but if there's things that we can teach the youngsters, that's what we need to do, and let them understand. They meet with the parents, they have the counselor. It's a whole big thing, and hopefully it's gonna be a good thing for the department and the city and even surrounding areas.
That's awesome.
I'm excited to see, hopefully, our community kind of take a look at what we're doing and ask questions so that we can have these resources available for youth that need it across the country.
Absolutely.
So that's amazing.
It's very important.
So we'll kind of get into prevention because this is a side that you guys have a big part in as well. And fire prevention starts long before the fire. Let's talk about fire permits, inspections. What should the public know?
I guess the first part of that is that the permits and inspection process is actually there for their benefit. It's there to make their properties, their businesses safer, not just for their business, but for their patrons. It sometimes comes across like we're coming in and telling you got to do a bunch of stuff to your business, but the ideal is to keep your building safe, to keep you in business, to keep you as a functioning part of society. Because if you don't have a safe building and it catches on fire, obviously you're not going to be able to serve the public anymore. Your business is going to go out of, you're going to go out of business, and that's not good for anybody. It's not good for the individual. It's also not good for our community. So the idea is to go in and look for common issues that we know cause fires, and then take measures to get the business owners to prevent or mitigate those problems so that they don't develop into an actual fire event.
Right, and these codes and things that are in place aren't just random things that have come up with, right? It's often said, the FDNY says that their probate book is written in blood, right? Fire code kind of comes from that same principle, right? There was an event that happened,
Yes.
that was investigated, that was researched, and then there were initiatives put forward to mitigate that from ever happening again.
Yes.
I mean, there's examples nationally and throughout history that have really changed the fire service and just general building code.
I think that's in any type of code that you have, whether it's law or fire code or building codes. Something has happened that has caused the change, that has caused things to get better. A way to make sure things get better. So I mean, it's and that's just like even with our permitting process, which Noel is a big part of, because he's one of the ones that does our operational permits, and those are permits that businesses have to get if they say some examples like say place of assembly. So nightclubs, restaurants, they have a place of assembly permit where they send in documentation. They comb through it to make sure that they have everything safeguarded and everything they need, and then we can issue their permit. Even like propane, we have LP gas permits. Compressed gas permits. We have like 36 permits, 37 if you count the annual permit, something along those lines. And it's all to make businesses safer, because they send us, their SDS sheets. They send us a diagram, the layout of how the business is. It's just it's a way to make sure that everything is done safely. Safety and education is our big thing. It's a way to also educate the businesses as to what they have and what safety features they need to take.
Because there are some things, you go out and you don't really think about if you're just a person in the general public. You go out, you're just there for a good time. But for example, in 2003 in Rhode Island, there was the Station nightclub fire. And I'm understanding that the result of this fire ended up in stricter regulations on pyrotechnics and occupancy limits. This fire killed 100 people and injured 230 people. Can you talk about some of the mistakes that could have been avoided there and some of the changes that came from that incident?
There's a landslide of those.
The Station nightclub fire was a huge event for building code and fire code officials. It started with changes made to the building that were not per code, that were not inspected. They didn't have permits. They didn't. The plan was not reviewed properly. The fire inspections, I don't think, were done properly. They never called in or asked to set the pyrotechnics off that they used, so they were not evaluated or approved by the fire marshal before it happened. They were put too close to combustible materials. Today, that building is required to be sprinklered. At the time, it was not. It's been a lot of things. And it's because that particular event is all on video. It has driven a lot of changes, and it's used to educate. It's been in every fire investigation and every fire inspection class for the last several decades.
And the video is readily available. You can watch the incipient stage of the nightclub fire.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a pretty intense. If people actually look it up online, it's pretty. Yes, very much so. Because I mean, it is very disturbing. One of the other main issues with that is there was a security guard or a bouncer blocking one of the exits. They were sending them elsewhere, and so all those people were trying to funnel out one exit. And so, I mean, if you can only imagine, I won't go into detail because, like I said, it is pretty disturbing for some folks. Don't know who all will be listening to the podcast, but if you want to look it up, you can look it up and see. I mean, it was very detrimental. It did come with significant changes, fire safety standards, even life safety code, increasing the emphasis on fire sprinklers, crowd management, because that place was crowded. When you see the video, it was way overcrowded, and it just seems like none of that was taken into effect back then. Bad things happen, new rules get made.
And y'all go out and do occupancy checks periodically, especially big event times, St. Patrick's Day and all these we're expecting
we
these
do.
big.
We actually find St. Patrick's Day we'll put on to a different conversation, but generally speaking, like Halloween, New Year's Eve, those are not the times when we typically see problems.
Really?
It's typically there'll be a concert or something else, a special event at a venue, and we'll show up and they're like, well, they've got too many people. And we go in and they don't like us, but it's for the safety of everyone there. The building is only designed to have so many people in it, and we're there to verify that it's not over occupancy, so that if there is an event that people can get out. And the events are not just fire. It could be a act of violence, of active shooter. It could be any number of things that could happen where you need to get people out of the building in a rapid and efficient manner. And so we're there to verify that that's being maintained.
And I really think that some of them know that they know we're going to come out on the big events. That's why we throw in those other ones that we come out and people don't know we're out. I mean, I think we've worked pretty well with PD and downtown businesses and everything. They know what we expect, and they know that, we have no issues going to get into businesses when we go downtown to do our occupancy checks. A lot of them know us by name. We make sure that, we're in good standing with the businesses, because like we said, we want everybody to be in business. We just want everybody to be safe and be in business, not just for the public or their business, but their employees. I mean, it's pretty important in general for everybody.
I mean, I kind of hit on it earlier. The safety of the individual blows up into the safety of the business, to the safety of the community, to the safety of the city, and all of those things are beneficial to the group. So the impact may be for us to go in and tell you, hey, this extension cord is wrong and you need to change it, you need to eliminate it. But by doing that, we're looking at the greater good of not just preventing the fire, but keeping the business owner in business, keeping his employees employed, keeping commerce for the community, and keeping the city in a better spot as well.
Absolutely. I know things are changing. We have new technologies and things like that coming into play in our department, especially. What's on the horizon for fire prevention? Can you guys share a few things that you're excited about? Obviously, are continuing the education for the public and businesses. We have all kinds of programs. We have the smoke alarm program. We do have, we work hand in hand with Hope herself. We go out and we do fire alarm canvases, or smoke alarm canvases, excuse me. That way we can make sure that, homeowners they have that little bit of security that they, if they can't afford smoke alarms, we can come out and step in and help fill that void. We're building a fire extinguisher training program that we're going to use here in the city, for the city departments, and then we'll see how that goes and see if we can expand it out. We're switching to new inspection software, which is actually for inspections and permitting, and we're actually going to use it. It's called First Do. We're using it throughout the throughout the fire department. There's only a few things that will still be, we're trying to mesh everything together, which will also help. Say when the operational folks go out and do pre-fire plans, they can see when we went out and went and done inspections. Everybody knows where everything is in the building.
I think it's going to be really good. And then we had already hit on it, but, and creating our new juvenile fire setting program. We just want to be out in the community. We want to make sure that the community knows that we are there for them, and that, we're just there to make things safe. So we would much rather educate folks than to write summonses or violations. But with that being said, we still have to write violations and everything, but we just really want to educate. I think that's a big word of the day for me, is the big education for everybody. The more they know, the safer things can be.
And it's to expand on that, obviously the objective is safety and the good of the community, but we don't want to do enforcement. We would like compliance, right? So I don't want to go out and write summonses and make people go to court and explain to a judge why they were in violation of the fire code. We would just like them to comply with the fire code so that they can be safe and maintain their business. Most of the time we get that. Most of the time we explain why the fire code is what it is and why we need things to be done in a specific way. And with that education, most people are, more than willing to proceed in the right way. It's very rarely that people get pushed back.
Awesome. That relationship is definitely so important. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners? Maybe advice for someone who's interested in fire investigations, or a safety message?
Well, anybody who's interested in fire investigations, one, if you're in the department and you happen to be listening to it, you just reach out to us in the office, and we can see we do have open positions on the team. As a little plug there, we have 4 open spots on the fire investigation team right now. So we do have the ability to bring some more people on. If you are an external person, and if you want to get in the fire department to go that route, that is still an option. But I do believe that, you don't have to be in a department to become a fire investigator. There's a civilian entry exam and everything that you can take to become a fire investigator, but bring your talents to the city. Come work with us in the city. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Fun time.
Anything?
I would say the biggest thing, or what I would like to share with people is, we're here as a resource for the community and the fire department. If you have a question, ask us. If you don't understand why something is, why a fire code is the way it is, or why we're required to do, an inspection for whatever, or why one building is sprinklered and why another is not, by all means, give us a shout. We'll be happy to explain it to you. We're here to help from an understanding standpoint, but also, like, if you're on a call and you're having difficulty gaining access to a building or whatever, we may not be able to help you on that specific call, but we can come back out the following business day, make contacts, and make it better for the next time. But that's what we're here for. We're here to support. We're here to make the lives of everyone better.
Our internal and external customers.
Yes.
Operations and the public. So that's
Absolutely.
what we have.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Your work definitely plays a critical role in keeping our city of Roanoke safe, and we're really grateful for your service. Thanks for coming.
Thanks again for having us.
And for our listeners, be sure to follow us at Roanoke Fire EMS on Facebook and Instagram to keep up with all the major incidents that we respond to here in Southwest Virginia. Until next time, stay safe, and thanks for tuning into the Ringdown.
Command first one. Medic 3 is on 10.
Take a line, knock down the exterior fire.